It's Movie Time is produced by John DeSando. Listen to full shows and read reviews online at WCBE.org.
I'm John DeSando.
And I'm Kevin Carr.
And this is It's Movie Time.
Boom.
And it's been Oscar time.
That's right. I don't have my shovel. Doesn't he hold a shovel or something? What's he shoveling?
Well, Kevin, I'm really interested in your take. Now,
Yeah.
you're broadcasting all over the country, and
Mm-hmm.
people are hearing you. But I'm not sure anybody has yet asked you for a complete assessment.
I've had a little bit of discussion, but there's a lot of stuff that was for an uneventful Oscars.
Yes.
There was a lot of stuff that happened in it. And it wasn't in like the major category, except for one. There was no real major categories because I think the acting Oscars were all sewn up weeks ago.
I know there were.
No surprises there.
And wouldn't you know, I had to go on TV and predict that 1917 was going to win.
That's what I said too. Now I predicted a split. I thought that Bong Joon-ho was going to win for Best Director, which I was right.
Right.
But I always predict the split because then if it happens, I look like a genius.
Well, I felt that Parasite was the best movie of the year, but never thought that it would take both categories, both the international. What do they call it?
The international film. They call it the best international film now.
Right. And Best Picture.
Yeah. And that was a surprise. Now, see, I'm not a huge fan of Parasite. I mean, I thought it was fine, but I think that he's got other films that are better out there.
Snowpiercer is one of my absolute favorites.
Yeah, there's some real interesting stuff. I was not a huge fan of Parasite, but I think it's kind of interesting that it won, and being the first, it's the first international picture to win Best Picture.
Right.
It's the first Korean to ever win Best Director.
Okay.
And also, and this is something people aren't talking about. It's a tiny little studio, Neon, that released this movie, and this is not from Universal or Warner Brothers or Disney. And I think that's interesting, too, because it's kind of like when Moonlight won, which was from A24. Right. That's a tiny little studio, and that shows that the little guy can do it in the Oscars, and I think that's cool.
Well, Parasite has some pretty trenchant commentary on class divide.
Oh, sure. Oh, and it's steeped in Korean culture, so you kind of have to deconstruct that, but you can apply it. It's sort of like Gangnam Style, and, as much as that's a pop song, it has a lot to say about social structure in Korea. And Parasite does the same thing. Oh,
yeah, and its application to the current growing inequality in the U.S. Makes it that much more interesting.
Oh, yeah.
It's filled with characters. It's negative, might be there's just too much going on.
Well, and the thing is, when you talk about Parasite as social commentary, one thing I did appreciate about it, and you get this with his films, no one's ever the bad guy completely, and no one's ever the good guy completely either.
That's a good point. Yeah. Now, what others? Any big surprises, Kev?
I mean, aside from Parasite winning, there really wasn't a big surprise.
Yeah.
And I mean, and like I said, nobody was streaking, so it wasn't even like any big surprise happened within the ceremony.
They had no MC.
Well, yeah, but they did their best to put in all that. Had Chris Rock and Steve Martin.
Yes.
Might as well have had them host. If you're going to have a big monologue, that's fine. But nothing really stood out. There was no huge moment. There was no flub where they announced the wrong Best Picture or anything like that.
Yeah.
They kept Faye Dunaway far away from that. But I thought it was a night of firsts because even like Taika Waititi, it's the first time. It was what is he Maori in terms of racial makeup. It's the first time a woman won for best soundtrack.
Okay.
For Joker.
Good.
So I mean, you had a lot of firsts in here, but they were sort of like statistical firsts that are neat to know, but it wasn't this huge upset.
Well, I think that leaving Greta Gerwig out of the director category was my only disappointment. No,
she's got plenty of. I mean, come on.
I know
seriously.
she has time.
First of all, Little Women was not the best movie of the year, and nor was it the best directed movie of the year. And I think she's great. I like Greta Gerwig, but she's going up against like Scorsese and Mendes. I mean, these people who've done this stuff for decades. And there's inequality in Hollywood, and there is a inherent sexism, but this is just the way it is. You can't suddenly snap your finger and get a 75-year-old female director with dozens of years' experience and Oscar nominations already under her belt. Greta Gerwig has plenty of time.
Yeah, and I think that if you go to, maybe last week or the week before, where the New York Times did a full spread on the choreography of Little Women.
Okay.
And this is not just with her running. This is places in there where Gerwig was actually thinking of a dance piece.
Sure.
Where she has her characters moving in front of the camera. I guess my point being that she is a very thoughtful, smart director, and I couldn't agree more with you that she has plenty of time for her.
I think there's a lot of growth between Lady Bird and Little Women, but maybe partly because of the structure of both of those films.
Right.
But I even thought that there was deficits in Little Women, and I know people are like, oh, man breathers, neckbeard guys who can't follow it. I couldn't follow the movie. It jumped around too much without any context to it.
Okay.
And if you know the story, you don't have a problem. But if you don't know the story or you haven't seen it in years, you need a little bit of it. I think that that's part of the reason why she didn't get the Best Director nod. But you also have a different number of movies on each list.
Oh, I got
You're always
you.
going to have people. And to say a snub, the other thing about snubs, and I've always gotten this with Oscars, when people complain about snubs, I don't like that because that's basically saying the people who did get nominated didn't deserve it. And I'm like, okay, unless you suddenly throw in Pauly Shore as a director for some nonsense thing.
Well, Kev, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood was one of the contenders for Best Movie, and there are people who thought it was the best movie. What's the status of Quentin Tarantino, do you think? Now, here's, to me, a transcendently gifted director whose Pulp Fiction alone would be in the great canon of all films. So, do you think that wasn't what you would call a snub?
Well, he got nominations. There were nominations, and it even won for Brad Pitt, but I think part of the reason Brad Pitt won in everything is because Pesci and Pacino split
The
Irishman vote.
And I think Pitt's time had come.
Sure.
He doesn't impress me as an actor. He never has.
Well, and the other thing with it is, it came out in, July?
Yeah.
That is an
Kevin, I don't like
exceptionally
hearing that.
But it's a long time to keep that buzz going. They kept the buzz.
I just don't like it.
But, I know. Parasite came out early, but Parasite had a slow build anyways. I mean, it's hard to launch a movie in the summer and have it stay throughout award season and keep that buzz up. That's very difficult to do.
Any thoughts about Renee Zellweger winning for Judy?
I think she deserved it.
Good.
Yeah, I think, and I said this, and I think we talked about Judy when it came out. It's not a great movie.
Exactly.
But she's great in it.
Oh, she is.
And that's the big thing. And that, I think, makes it even more impressive. And I'm glad she won. I think that's great.
And as in the case of Brad Pitt, Laura Dern's time seemed to be her time.
Yeah.
I think they wanted very much for her to win.
Yeah. Well, yeah, because she wasn't going to win for this. They probably would have tried to bring her in for Little Women.
Oh, right.
I was not a big fan of her character in Marriage Story, so I'm a little bit conflicted on that personally, because I think Laura Dern's good, but she blows hot and cold for me, and I was not a big fan of even that performance or the character, but I don't necessarily blame her. I think that's more of a Noah Baumbach issue.
It seemed like
But I'm in the minority on that, I guess.
No, but it seemed like it's a role that fit her almost too perfectly.
Yeah.
The kind of in-your-face attorney.
It was a bit of a stock character she's
yes,
playing.
exactly. Now, Kevin, overall, I'm in Los Angeles at the time of the Oscars. I'm able to watch it for the first time because it's over before I go to bed.
Yeah.
Now, here when back east, I can't do that. I can't be up past midnight watching the ceremony. What are your thoughts on the ceremony?
The idea of having a 3-hour award ceremony is a dinosaur in itself.
It is.
The fact that they're complaining because it got the lowest ratings of all time, that's because it's 3 hours. You no longer just have 3 stations. You got the entirety of cable, the entirety of streaming. You got iPhones and games and apps. And if you want screen time, you're not restricted to whatever the networks are showing. And so that's make it a 90-minute ceremony. Don't approve Ricky Gervais's monologue. Let him come out and tear everybody apart, and then throw out all the production numbers because they're kind of cool and all, but streamline the ceremony.
Why do you need it? Now, there's no way you can control Joaquin Phoenix
Well, those are speeches.
Yes, there's no way you can,
Yeah.
that adds to the time. So you're right. If you get rid of the production numbers and just concentrate on the awards.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or even streamline the awards, and not to take anything away from hair and makeup and
Yeah.
costuming and visual
Yeah.
effects, but those are not the big ones people are dying for. I'm all for speeches. You can say whatever you want to in a speech. If you win the award, you want to sell Amway, do it in it's your time.
With you. I think there's no place for politics, as in the case of Brad Pitt.
Sure.
And there's no place for veganism, as is with Joaquin Phoenix. I mean,
Well, it is a dog-eat-dog world out there.
Okay. Kevin Carr, it is the 2020 Oscar ceremony. What grade would you award it?
I'm going to give it a real safe B.
And I am too. And you know something? The good Lord willing, we'll be here complaining again next year.
Next year, same time.
All right.